Hello and welcome to another episode of Oops, We Binged It Again. So I'm Mukta and here with my daughter Nandini. And as always, we are bringing you spoiler free reviews to help ensure that you know how to utilize those dinner evenings, those afternoons, the lunches, and even your weekends.
Exactly. But today, it's not just another episode. It's probably, Mum, you'll agree, the most important
Of
because
course.
there is nothing more painful than spending ages watching a movie or a series only to have it have like a bad ending and a useless plot or a very good ending, but just an unnecessary story. We're here today to review all of those bad ones and tell you what not to watch.
Yeah, it's like having spent gazillion hours only to know, you know what, we shouldn't have done that.
Exactly.
And talking about pain and painful, Nandini, nothing was made more painful for me to sit with you and actually agree to come up with that list.
Exactly. There were a few series that my mom wanted to add, but I was like, no, that was a really good series. So mind you, we had a lot of disagreements over the week, but the fact that we have not included that series, you can imagine who won the fight.
As always.
Exactly. So the shows slash the movies that we're covering today, which will be about four of them, are ones that we both agree are, let's say, quite underwhelming.
We finally agreed. So, listeners, some of these could be controversial for you. Why? Because, of course, there were mixed reviews. So, when we also read about them, there were people who would agree or disagree in terms of them being sensational, really good, or really bad. So, if you watched any of the ones that we're going to be talking about today, do let us know. And if you haven't watched and were planning to hit play on one of those, maybe listen to this episode, our episode in full, and then maybe decide.
Exactly. But because it's a new one for us, how do you think we should structure this episode?
I have my ideas.
Wait, I have an idea now. So we have our list with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe what we could do is, you or I, we could come up with one word to describe that series and then just guess which one we're talking about and then just dive right into it. What do you think?
Ah, that sounds so like a talking charades game.
Oh my god. Only you can come up with these like cringy titles. But anyways, yes, I mean essentially it is that, isn't it? Because so I will describe that series or a movie in a word, then you guess it, and then we can talk about what we liked, what we didn't like mainly, and why we suggest not watching it.
So let's then bring up the first one on our list today. So let me start with the one word, and that is disturbing.
Ah, I know this one. Dear Child, isn't it?
Yes, you guessed that right, Nandini.
It was a really disturbing and traumatic series, I will say.
I just cannot disagree. So, Dear Child listeners is exclusively on Netflix. It is a thriller miniseries. When I say miniseries, it's about 6 episodes. Now, this story is about a woman who has managed to finally escape from years of captivity. And she'd been missing for 13 years, we believe. And then there's an investigation that ensues, of course, after.
Exactly. And the lady, the main character in this, so she's kidnapped in a parking garage and suddenly she finds herself locked in a small, windowless apartment in the middle of some random forest. And the abductor, the guy who kidnapped her, he dyes her dark hair blonde and then starts calling her Lena Beck. And from that moment on, he forces her to live according to his rules, according to whatever he wants her to do, and also asks her to look after what he calls their children, Hannah and Jonathan.
And to be honest, this was very intense. It was puzzling. I liked it. I mean, the thrill was good. Because in the first few episodes, you would always think, you know what is this leading up to? Why is this happening in the way it is? So, of course, the thrill is alive throughout.
I agree, yeah, because for me, if you remember, Mom, I was watching it when I had my exams, my final exams.
Yeah.
So obviously I was studying pretty much all hours I was awake, but I would take these lunch breaks or dinner breaks and I'd always want to watch something good in during that
And
time.
imagine what we ended up watching.
And whenever I would put this on and I would go back to studying, it would just be so dark and traumatic because it was just a very heavy series to watch, I would say.
And that is the very reason, Nandini, we brought this on the list, right?
Yeah.
It was very, very heavy on the head, listeners. Like the scenes where Lena is tortured, it's too painful
It's
to
very
watch.
painful, yeah.
Because it's not just the physical torture, it's the psychological torture. The way the kids have been conditioned, the way this kidnapper, he does not give her food, and then the way he asks three of them, the two kids and her, to show their hands when he walks in, just to check that they're not hiding anything. A little too much for me to watch,
Yeah,
to be
and
honest.
of course, like you mentioned, there's the physical torture as well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's for the weak-hearted. If you remember, she's also chained, and there's like only a small area in the room where she can sort of go around, right?
I know, and the kids as well, as I said, right? The way they've been brought up, the way they talk, the way they behave and act, even
Yeah.
the daughter especially, the elder one.
Yeah, Hannah.
Oh my god, yeah, Hannah. So while the thrill is great, as I said, it's too heavy, very intense, and definitely not anything I would recommend that you watch after a long day at work or during your exams, like you, Nandini.
Absolutely not. Exactly. And that brings me to the second series. And this, I think, is the most controversial one from what I've read online. But before that, I think my turn now for the one word, and you will guess.
Keep it one word, Nandini, please, this time.
Always. Okay, let's say bizarre.
Behind her eyes.
Yes.
Now I remember. Now see, this is an interesting one. This is available on Netflix, listeners. And Nandini had already watched it. So, I mean, when she asked me to watch it with her, because she was insisting that the ending of this is brilliant, out of this world. And I started watching it, of course. I got intrigued. By the end of the third episode, I think I'd started to give up. Remember, Nandini, I was forcing you to tell me what's happening. Otherwise, I was even threatening. I will read about the ending online and stop there. But she kept insisting that the ending was really worth it. And I think that is how we can describe the series for you.
Yeah, no, I agree, exactly. So, a quick one on the plot. So, it's a British psychological thriller, also about 6 episodes long. Honestly, though, I think it could have been wrapped up in like 2 to 3 episodes, really. So, overall, the story, it centers on Louise. She's a single mother who begins a secret affair with her boss, David. But weirdly enough, Louise, she also develops a secret and a rather close friendship with David's wife, Adele. Now, what starts as a love triangle between Louise, David, and Adele, it very quickly turns into something very dark and, like I said, very bizarre.
So the series Behind Her Eyes, as we said, it's controversial pick for this episode. Because the end, as we've said, is superb. It is
really
truly
is.
unexpected, honestly. And you would not have seen this in any of the thrillers you would have watched so far. We can promise you that.
You haven't seen it either, have
Okay,
you?
fine. Keep spilling the beans, Nandini. So yeah, as I said, I forced her to tell me what the ending was. And trust me, I was surprised.
But do you think you should have sort of stuck around for the thrill? Like you should have actually finished all the episodes?
I don't think so, Nandini. And I'll tell you why. See, the build-up that they have throughout the series, it seems too unnecessary to me. It's too forced. I've been always telling you that I like series that have a deep character build-up, a connect with the characters, which I could not establish in this series. There was no one I could actually like or say, you know what, this one's a good one.
Yeah, that is true, actually. And I think from what I've read online, a lot of us agree that, the first 5 episodes of 6 episodes thriller, the first 5 episodes are just really unnecessary. They episode after episode, you don't learn anything new about the plot. I feel like the same story about the affair, the friendship, that's just being dragged on and on. But honestly, I cannot stress this enough. The thrill in the end is so good. So I would say if you are someone who has the patience to stick around for a good twist, even if the meat, the content is not as great, do give this a try. I don't think it's a bad one.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
If you had finished it, yeah.
All right, and because Nandini, now that we're on the topic of dragged plots, long drawn build-ups, let's move to a series I would describe as flat, and now you guess it.
Flat? I mean, we have 2 left. Apples Never Fall?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I agree. I think, flat is a good way to describe it because, so for context, we hopped over from Netflix to BBC iPlayer for this one. And to be honest, we were heavily disappointed. So BBC iPlayer, they put it in the mystery bucket, but I think it's very much a family drama. It's not a mystery.
That I agree with.
Yeah, so the plot overall, it revolves around the Delaney family. And they're a retired couple who once were co-owners of a very successful tennis academy. And these two people, the retired couple, they also have 4 adult children. The main plot of the series is the matriarch, Joy, she suddenly disappears. And obviously, like, because that happens in the first episode, you go, okay, now that's interesting. Where is she? Where has she gone? But then, it's just, yeah, after that is so annoying.
So I'm going to contradict myself on this one, listeners. I always say, Nandini, right, that I like a character building story. But this one, it was a little too much of a character.
It gave you that character. One character at a time.
I know, literally too much of it. So, and each episode, as Nandi said, right, one character at a time with each episode. And each episode, the subsequent episode was far less interesting than the previous one. So you can imagine by the time you got to the end of it, you'd literally lost interest in it.
Because each episode also just focused on one character at a time. Like just telling you about their story. Like, no, unnecessary.
Exactly. While they try to build to the end, but then somehow it was a little too much of it. The only interesting angle was this entry of this random girl, the Savannah girl. She shows up at their house for shelter, but with however her character is shown and how it builds up, still I don't think it was worth sticking around for that long in the series and watching it to the end with patience.
Exactly. And because you mentioned end, I think the ending too is a bit abrupt.
Very abrupt.
Like, yeah, we know the answers now. We know where Joy is, but it just ends. And I think it just really fails to impress. So it is available on different platforms depending on where you are in the world. But honestly, I really, really do not recommend watching it. Like for Behind Her Eyes, the previous one that we talked about, I still suggest you watch it if you really like, if you have the patience and like a good ending. But this one, I don't think there was a good story, there was a good ending. It was just, yeah, I don't think
a little underwhelming, right?
Exactly, that's it, right?
So Nandi, interestingly, you just said fails to impress. Can I add one more impromptu, please?
Which one?
I'll tell you, and I'm sure you'll not be disappointed with this one. You remember this movie we watched, A Simple Favor?
The one with Blake Lively.
Oh, yes, exactly.
That was so bad.
See, that's exactly what I meant. So let's just spend about a few minutes talking about it because it should have made it to our list.
Yes, I agree.
So this movie, listeners, was released in 2018 and it was directed by Paul Feig. You remember in one of our previous episodes, we had reviewed this movie, The Spy, Melissa McCarthy, same director. So, of course, when you watch a movie from the same director, you tend to build up an expectation that, this should be as good as the other one that we watched.
Exactly. It's a bit like when we watch, when we watched the first Harlan Coben series.
Oh.
And now anything with the tag Harlan Coben, we're like, that's
is
it.
Our go-to,
that
right?
is a good series.
I know.
But no, coming back to Simple Favor, what was the plot? I think it was Anna Kendrick. She plays Stephanie. She's a vlogger. And then she becomes friends with Blake Lively. What was Blake's name in this?
Emily.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So Emily, she's this very glamorous, but sort of has a mean vibe kind of woman. And Emily, she suddenly vanishes. And then what happens in the sort of moments before she vanishes? She asks Stephanie to look after her son.
Which is the simple favor.
Exactly. And then Stephanie, she teams up with Emily's husband, Sean, to look for Emily, basically.
And see, that is where I say it was weak. It just failed to impress because you remember we were already saying, now we see that Stephanie will get along with Sean and they'll be together. You remember we started predicting already. It was too predictable.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me say that the plot was very weak, as it was predictable. And so the overall story, I don't think
really
it was very
flat.
thoughtfully written.
I think flat can also be applied here.
Exactly. And also, while Emily, right, Blake Lively, I know people love her acting and she's a really glamorous woman. But I think the personality they gave to her, the role that they gave to her in this movie, or this just not suit her personality. She was asked to play that mean woman. I don't think she really could play the mean woman in the real mean way. If you would have flipped the characters, Anna Kendrick would have played that, I believe still would have been a better one. That's just me, because I've seen Anna Kendrick's a lot of her movies and I've seen her play, right?
Yeah. No, that's a good one, actually. I don't think, that Blake Lively really did justice to her role. I see what you mean. And even the ending, if you think about it, it was so forced, and it was almost as if the director was like, how do I end this series? And he just threw a random, nonsense ending to that entire movie.
I know, I didn't expect this from Paul Feig's movie, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah. And that is the reason. So there's a sequel now, listeners, another Simple Favor in 2025. But honestly, we were not compelled to watch it at
Oh,
all.
no way. No way.
Yeah.
But now that we've spent time talking about A Simple Favor, let's not forget to talk about the last one that we had on our list. And obviously, no points for guessing which one this is, but I will still give it a one-word description. I'd say frustrating.
And of course, that leaves us with The Watcher. So, listeners, this is an American mystery horror series about 7 episodes. I think it was released in 2022 on
Yep.
Netflix, right? And I've been told that this is inspired by a real life case in
Indeed.
America, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
So it follows the Brannock family. In this case, in the series, it's Dean, Nora, and their kids. And they move into their dream home in New Jersey. But soon after they move in, they are terrorized by anonymous letters from someone calling themselves the Watcher. And this Watcher person, he appears to be, the house's guardian. And he has a very weird and scary interest in Dean and Nora's children as well. And obviously, like you can imagine, Dean and Nora, they start suspecting everyone. The neighbors, the former homeowner, and even each other at times, honestly. It is, to be fair, a very, very good thriller. It's very engaging. It keeps the tension alive throughout. But I did not know that this was an unsolved case.
Aww.
Exactly. So I went in expecting answers. And I was so disappointed in the end because it was building up to something so good and it really hooked you to that sort of series and the entire story. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't mind unsolved mysteries. I think they are really interesting. Just that I just had a different mindset going into it. Had I been told that this was an unsolved mystery, I would have been like, okay, I'm just watching it for the facts. But this one, I was watching it for the end.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Nandini. Unsolved mysteries can be truly intriguing.
Oh, you should mention your storytelling podcast.
Okay, thank you. So, listeners, I was just thinking, by now you would have known that I love thrillers, I love mystery genre. So I thought, why not tell stories that have questions that still remain unanswered? So I call it Never Found. It is another podcast series where I talk about stories or real life happenings that have never been solved till date. There is a mystery that still lingers around it. Why did something happen and what happened after and never solved? So I call it, as I said, Never Found. And the link to that podcast is in the description. If you really enjoy listening to stories that are true but still have questions that linger, then please give it a shot.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And because she's told you already that it is unsolved, you will not be quote unquote frustrated when you watch
Exactly.
it. Exactly. So these were our five recommendations of what not to watch. But again, our opinion. So definitely let us know what you think and whether you would have rated anything differently.
And the next week, listeners, we are back to our recommendations. And we will talk about a show where nothing is what it seems.
Exactly. It's all about reading between the lines and the lies. And a teaser, it's an adaptation from a game. And this is the game that we were introduced to in the Netherlands when we lived there.
Oh my God, ever since I've fallen in love with that game.
It is a very good game.
I still enjoy playing that, to be honest. So, listeners, we'll be back soon with the twists, with the turns, and maybe a few trust issues.
See you then.